Hi there. I'm Aileen. My dad screamed at me, called me ungrateful, and told me to get out and not come back. So I left. But what if I told you? That wasn't even the worst part. What if I told you I'd spent years quietly paying their bills, only to find out they were stealing behind my back? That my own mother faked being sick just to get a few $100s more out of me? That my brother trashed my car, and they all said I should just let it go? Yeah. You think getting kicked out was the end? It was just the beginning. I stepped inside with 2 grocery bags cutting into my fingers, the cold still clinging to my coat. The air in the house wasn't warm. It never was. Not in temperature, not in spirit. Travis was on the couch like always, eyes glued to his game controller, not even a glance in my direction. Mom stood by the sink, drying a glass that was already spotless, avoiding eye contact. My father, Gordon, was waiting in the living room doorway like a judge ready to deliver a sentence. "You got a minute?" he said without even a hello. I nodded, set the bags on the counter. "Sure. What's going on?" His lips tightened. "We've been talking, and it's time you step up." I knew that tone, the same one he used when I was 8 and forgot to sweep the porch. Except this wasn't about chores. "Step up how?" He folded his arms. "The mortgage. It's crushing us. You've got a good job. It's time you cover it, fully. We can't keep doing this month to month." I blinked. "Wait, what? I've already been helping? Groceries, utilities?" Mom chimed in without turning around. "You make more than any of us ever did. You live alone, no kids, no husband. What are you spending it on anyway?" Travis snorted from the couch, probably on her new couch or yoga crap. I turned to him, jaw clenched. "Excuse me? You're always acting like you're better than us," he muttered, not looking away from the screen. "Maybe it's time you proved you're part of the family." I took a breath, trying to keep it together. I've been supporting this house in pieces for years. Mortgage? That's a huge step, and it's not something I agreed to. Dad stepped forward. "You're being selfish, Aileen. We raised you, fed you, gave you a roof." "I was flipping burgers at 16 to buy my own textbooks," I snapped. He didn't flinch. "We expected more from you." I looked at each of them, Travis lounging like he owned the place, Mom acting like I was the stranger, Dad judging me like I was the failure. My chest was tight, but something in me shifted. I'd carried their weight for years, quietly, out of guilt, out of duty, but now they wanted my spine too. "No," I said simply. "What do you mean, no?" Dad's voice rose. "I'm not taking over the mortgage." There was a pause, then his face turned red. "You ungrateful little brat, get out, and don't come back." The room went still. I looked at him, then at Mom, her face unreadable, and Travis, still pretending I didn't exist. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I just grabbed my bag, turned, and walked out. The front door closed behind me like a judge's gavel. Cold air hit my face, but I welcomed it. He said I wasn't welcome anymore, but in that moment, I realized I'd never truly been. By the time I got back to my apartment, the sky had turned an ugly slate. I didn't turn on the lights, I didn't take off my coat. I just sank into the couch and stared at nothing while the silence settled thick around me. The grocery bags were still in the car. I couldn't care less. Let the milk spoil. Let the eggs freeze. I wasn't crying. I hadn't since my 20s. The ache didn't come out in tears. It sat in my jaw, in my fists, in the throbbing vein at my temple. My father's words kept replaying like a broken voicemail. "Ungrateful. Don't come back." Ungrateful. The word gnawed at something deep inside me. For years I paid the light bills when they couldn't. Covered the heating bill one winter when the furnace went out. Paid for Travis's rent after he got evicted. Not once, but twice. Never a thank you. Just silence. Or worse, expectation. Marla used to call it helping your family, but it never went both ways. They never once asked how I was doing. Not after my breakup. Not after I got laid off that one year. All they cared about was what I could provide. Like the time the mortgage hit 3 months behind. I paid it, quietly, so they wouldn't lose the house. No fanfare. No recognition. I wasn't doing it for praise, but I didn't expect to be treated like a burden either. And then there was that day in 2021. I'd refused to lie on a reference for Travis. He was applying for a management job he had no business landing. That same night, Gordon followed me into the garage. He stood there, arms crossed, said, "If you can't back up your brother, don't expect a piece of this house when I die." It wasn't even subtle. "You mean the house I've been helping you keep?" I asked. He didn't blink. Family loyalty isn't transactional. I remember choking on that. Loyalty? I'd been breaking my back to keep them afloat, and he was standing there like a king, threatening to erase me over one honest decision. I didn't speak for 2 weeks after that. Not out of fear, out of exhaustion. Tonight, as I sat in the dark, that memory came roaring back. The cold words, the shrug of entitlement. He threatened to cut me off, but all I ever wanted was to cut free. I didn't sleep much after that night. The next few days passed in a strange sort of haze. Work, coffee, a few half-eaten meals. My phone stayed silent, like everyone in that house had collectively agreed I no longer existed. That part was fine. I preferred the quiet over fake apologies. It was Wednesday morning when I noticed the alert from my banking app. Auto payment failed. I frowned. It was for the monthly transfer I used to send to my dad's account, the one labeled mortgage support. I had paused it after getting kicked out, but something about seeing the notification stirred something in me. I sat at my desk, half distracted from my spreadsheets, and opened the folder where I used to keep all the payment confirmations. The dates lined up, amounts steady. I had done my part, every single month. On my lunch break, I stepped outside and found a quiet bench in the office courtyard. I tapped in the number to the mortgage provider. Just curiosity, I told myself, just to confirm it was still being covered without me. A woman named Tanya picked up, polite and scripted. I gave her the address, said I used to help make payments. She pulled up the record. There was a pause. "I'm seeing multiple missed payments," she said gently. "Looks like the account has been delinquent for nearly 8 months. 8 months. I blinked. "I'm sorry, that can't be right. I sent money every month, thousands, directly to my father." She cleared her throat. "We've received partial amounts a couple of times, but nothing consistent. And not under your name." I didn't respond. My hands felt cold, even in the sunlight. I stared ahead at nothing, hearing the buzzing in my ears grow louder. They hadn't paid. Not with the money I sent, not once. They lied. They looked me in the face every Sunday, complained about bills, begged for help, and never said a word about being months behind. They took what I gave and used it for... what? I didn't even want to guess. I hung up. Back in the office stairwell, I stared at the wall for a long time. Everything they'd said, about helping the family, about doing my part, it was never about keeping the lights on or saving the house. They didn't just take my money, they gambled with my trust. Now it's my turn. That night I couldn't stop pacing. The apartment lights were off, but the glow from the street lamps outside painted long shadows across the floor. I needed quiet, stillness, but none of it came. Then my phone buzzed. Mom, 2 missed calls. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. She hadn't called since the night Dad screamed at me to leave. Now suddenly she remembered I existed? I didn't call back, didn't even open the voicemail. But that name, glowing on the screen, pulled me back to something I thought I'd buried. It was last fall, October, I think. I was at the office scrambling to finish a project when my phone rang. Marla's voice trembled on the other end. "I collapsed," she whispered. "I was alone in the bathroom for hours. I couldn't move. I'm scared, honey." I dropped everything, cleared my afternoon meetings, booked the earliest train back to Medford, sat the whole ride with my chest in knots, imagining her unconscious on the tile, cold and helpless. I reached the house, breathless, heart pounding. She was in the living room, on the couch, eating crackers and watching game shows. Her face lit up like I'd just brought her a birthday cake. "Oh, honey, you got here fast. I'm feeling a little better now. Can we talk about that loan I mentioned?" I didn't even sit down. My body just locked. "You told me you collapsed," I said. She waved her hand. "I did, for a little bit, but I just needed you to come. You've been so distant." That night, I wrote her a check. I didn't speak much, just handed it over and left. I hated myself for not screaming. Back in my kitchen now, I leaned against the counter and stared at my phone again. This wasn't forgetfulness. This wasn't a misunderstanding. That day wasn't the only time. It was a pattern. Lies wrapped in love. Guilt wearing a mother's perfume. I opened the missed call log and deleted it without listening. That was the last time I came running, I said aloud to no one. The next time they cried wolf, they'd find no one waiting at the door. The next morning, I was halfway down the stairs of my building, keys in hand, when I saw it. My car sat under a dusting of pollen and early spring chill, but it was the deep, jagged scratch slicing across the driver's door that stopped me cold. One side mirror hung limp, cracked in two like it had been kicked. The vandal didn't even try to hide it. It was personal, precise. Only a handful of people knew where I lived now, and I could count on one hand the ones who would want to send a message. I snapped a photo, heart pounding, and went back upstairs. Travis picked up on the second ring. "Wow, you're up early," he said, like this was a Sunday brunch call. "You touched my car." A pause. "Paranoid much? Maybe some punk just didn't like your parking job." "Only 3 people know this address," I said. "You're one of them." He laughed, a slow, greasy sound. "And if I did? You gonna call the cops on your own brother? That's rich." I didn't answer. He filled the silence. "We're family, Aileen. This whole grudge you're holding, it's ugly. You don't cut blood over a few scratches." I hung up. Less than 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. Mom. "Aileen, honey, please don't escalate this," she said in that overly sweet tone she saved for when she was about to excuse something awful. "Travis has been under a lot of stress. He didn't mean anything by it." "He vandalized my car, Mom." "Oh, he's just lashing out. You know how sensitive he is? I raised you to be more reasonable than this." I clenched my jaw. "You raised me to clean up after him." She went quiet. "This isn't stress. This is destruction," I said. "Next time I press charges." "You don't mean that." "I do." She tried softening again. "Come on, baby. You really want to go that far over a mirror?" They wanted me to play nice while they lit matches. I warned them. Next time I'd bring water and the fire marshal. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table sipping lukewarm tea, flipping through old notebooks I hadn't opened in months. My eyes skimmed a post-it I'd slapped on a page back in 2022. Missing $200. Don't forget. I paused. My stomach tightened. I remembered exactly when that was. The week I visited home because Marla claimed her arthritis had flared up. I stayed the weekend, even ran errands, left my purse in the guest room while I helped her cook. The cash was gone when I got back. I'd chalked it up to a mistake. Maybe I miscounted, but I wrote the note anyway, just in case. And then the memory sharpened. That night, I caught Travis coming out of my room. He smiled like nothing was off. "Looking for nail clippers," he'd said, tapping his pocket. I'd gone straight to him. "You took from me," he scoffed. "What are you talking about?" I told him the amount, the missing money, the note. He laughed, real casual. "Wow, paranoid much?" I turned to Mom. "You're seriously going to let him lie to my face?" She waved me off. "You probably misplaced it. You know how scattered you get when you're tired." "I checked the hallway cam," I said. "It caught him going into my room when I was outside with you." She didn't flinch. "Maybe he needed it for something important. He's been having a hard time." "Then ask," I snapped. "Don't steal." "He's your brother," she said. "Don't turn this into drama." I left early the next morning. Didn't say goodbye. Now at my kitchen table, I opened my banking app and started changing every password. Set 2-factor codes. Removed all linked accounts. They stole from me once, lied to my face, and got away with it. Not anymore. They could steal from me once. But now, every boundary I draw comes with consequences. By the time the next weekend rolled around, my resolve had crystallized into something sharper, cold, precise. So when Judith, the neighbor in Unit 3B, knocked on my door with an invitation to the HOA's monthly mixer, I didn't think much of it. "Come by," she said. "Light snacks, a few announcements, nothing heavy." I figured small talk and cheap wine might distract me. What I didn't expect was to walk into the community clubhouse and see my father standing at the front of the room, flipping through stapled papers like he was about to deliver a sermon. I froze mid-step. He didn't see me yet. Marla sat beside him, pretending to be modest with her eyes downcast and a faux shy smile. Travis leaned against the back wall, arms crossed, face unreadable. I thought about walking out, but Judith had already waved me in, smiling like she was proud to have dragged me there, so I stayed. The meeting opened with routine announcements, parking rules, landscaping updates. I stood near the back, arms folded, but then the mic passed to Gordon and everything changed. "I hate to bring up personal matters," he began, his voice rehearsed and dripping with pity. "But I think this community deserves transparency, especially when someone among us has taken advantage of trust, of family, and of kindness." Heads turned, my stomach clenched. "I have a daughter," he continued, "who many of you know. She's decided that family obligations don't matter anymore, that leaving her ill mother and struggling brother behind is justified if it helps her keep her hands clean. Some even say she took money meant for her brother's treatment, and never looked back." Gasps, whispers. My face burned, but I didn't flinch. Marla pressed a tissue to her nose like she was trying not to cry. Travis smirked. He looked at me then, daring me to explode. I didn't move, didn't shout, didn't give them the performance they were baiting. Instead, I took 3 slow steps forward. The room quieted like someone had cut the audio. I stopped a few feet from Gordon, locked eyes with him, and said calmly, "You just lit a match on everything you once had left." He blinked, lips parted, but I didn't give him time to answer. I turned and walked out. I didn't slam the door, didn't run. I let the silence follow me out, every step echoing louder than any lie he told. They wanted an audience. They'll get one, just not the kind they'll enjoy. I didn't sleep much those 4 nights. Each evening after work, I sat at my kitchen table with a folder, laptop open, combing through emails, bank statements, voicemail transcriptions, everything. Not out of spite, out of necessity. They made it public first. Now I'd make it clear. So when Thursday came and Judith texted, "Tonight's HOA gathering, 7 p.m., you coming?" I replied with just one word, "Yes." I arrived 5 minutes early, clutching a manila folder thick with truth. No nerves this time, only clarity. Inside the clubhouse, the same faces were scattered among folding chairs and coffee-stained tables. Gordon leaned against the podium, looking relaxed. Marla sat stiff beside him, lips pressed. Travis hovered in the back like an uninvited shadow. Judith gave me a subtle nod and slid her bag off the seat next to her. I walked straight to the front and turned to face the room. "Before we begin," I said calmly, "I'd like to respond to some things that were said here 4 days ago." A few people exchanged glances. Gordon smirked. "I didn't come here to argue," I continued, pulling the folder open. "I came to clarify. With evidence." I lifted the first page. "Here are records of every transfer I've made to my parents' account over the last 5 years. Monthly payments, groceries, bills, over $68,000 in total." A few heads turned. A few murmurs rose. "These," I said, holding up printed screenshots, "are emails from Marla asking for help, sometimes calling me at 3 a.m. Next, I played a short clip from my phone. Travis's voice, unmistakable, laughing. "Yeah, I borrowed a little. What, you gonna call the cops on your own brother?" I let the silence settle before the final blow. "This is a mortgage delinquency notice," I said, holding it up. 8 months overdue, even though I sent money every single month. Ask yourself, where did it go? Gordon started to speak, but Judith raised a hand. Let her finish. I turned to the room. They weren't just ungrateful, they lied, they manipulated, and when I stopped playing along, they tried to bury me publicly. I turned back to Gordon. "You dragged my name through the mud in front of these people, but receipts don't lie." He opened his mouth again. The HOA chair cut in sharp. "Sir, I think you should sit down." Marla looked away. Travis shifted uncomfortably. Judith stood beside me. "We always knew who the steady one was." I nodded, swallowing the heat in my throat. "I didn't want this, but I won't be quiet anymore." I handed the folder to the HOA chair and walked out. Not broken, not bitter, just done. This wasn't revenge. This was exposure, and they brought it on themselves. The clubhouse door clicked shut behind me, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I had to look over my shoulder. The following days moved quietly. No surprise calls, no guilt-laced voicemails, just stillness. I didn't hear from the HOA, but I heard things. That Gordon lost his contract to manage the community's maintenance budget. That Travis left town. Needed a reset, someone said. Marla stopped showing up to Sunday services altogether. I didn't celebrate. There was nothing victorious about it. It was just air returning to my lungs. One Sunday morning, I slept in with the windows cracked open, the breeze making the blinds sway. My phone didn't ring. No alarms, no demands. I made eggs, ate them slow. Sipped coffee like time wasn't chasing me anymore. Later that afternoon, I walked to the old park near Charles River, the same place I'd go as a teenager when home felt too small and too loud. There I sat on a bench under a wide maple, watching ducks chase each other on the water. A little girl ran circles around her father while he held out a juice pouch. I smiled. Not at them, but at the feeling that nothing in this moment belonged to anyone but me. I didn't bring a phone. No planner, no noise, just myself. When the sun began to dip, I strolled back home. My feet moved slowly, but not out of fatigue, out of comfort. Peace wasn't something I fought for anymore. It just arrived. Back at my apartment, I powered up my laptop to check emails. Near the bottom of my inbox, there it was. One unread message. Subject, "We're sorry." From Marla. I hovered for a beat, then clicked. The message wasn't long. A few lines. The kind of apology that tries to say, "Let's forget," without ever saying, "I was wrong." I read it once, then again. And I archived it. No reply needed. I leaned back, looked around my quiet apartment and whispered, more to myself than anyone else, "I forgive you, but from here, I live for me." Healing isn't loud. Sometimes it just sounds like your own footsteps, walking away for good. Looking back now, I don't carry hate in my chest. I carry clarity. For years I thought family meant sacrifice without boundaries. That love had to be earned through silence, through doing more, giving more, hurting quietly. But that's not love. That's control wearing a familiar face. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You can love your family and still say no. You can care deeply and still walk away when your peace is the price. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is choose yourself. To anyone out there who feels like they owe their soul just to stay accepted, you don't. Your worth is not measured by what you tolerate. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you love to finally breathe? What did freedom look like for you? Let's talk in the comments. If this story hit home for you, leave a 1 in the comments. Or tell me where you're watching from. And if it didn't quite land with you, I want to know why. Let's learn together. And hey, if you made it this far, maybe it's time we stay connected. Subscribe for more real stories like this. Stories that dig deep, make us think, and remind us we're not alone. Thanks for listening. Till the next one.
Hi, I'm Emily. Before we dive into my story, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more real-life tales. Now let's get into it. I met Jack at the office 7 years ago. While I grew up in a modest household where we celebrated every small achievement because it meant so much, Jack came from a world of wealth and privilege, where luxury was taken for granted. Our worlds collided on a typical Monday morning during a meeting, and despite our differences, we clicked instantly. Jack was unlike any guy I had ever known. His genuine kindness and ability to make everyone feel important drew me to him. But things were more complicated when it came to his family. His mother, always impeccably dressed in designer outfits, and his sister Lisa, who mirrored her mother's every attitude, saw me as a reminder of Jack's departure from their high-class norms. "Really, Jack? You could date anyone and you choose someone from, where did you say you were from again, dear?" His mother would ask, her voice dripping with disdain, her eyes full of judgment. But Jack was always in my corner. "It doesn't matter where she's from, Mom. Emily is amazing," he would defend, squeezing my hand under the table during every family dinner that felt more like a tribunal. Lisa's jealousy was impossible to ignore. "Must be nice, snagging a rich guy to solve all your problems," she'd sneer when we were alone, making me question my place in Jack's world. Despite the chilly reception from his family, our relationship flourished. Jack proposed, and I said yes, dreaming of a future where love would eventually soften his family's harsh edges. But as our wedding day approached, their condescension turned into attempts to sabotage our happiness. I just don't see what you see in her, Jack, Lisa would argue, trying to plant seeds of doubt. She's clearly not one of us. But Jack would always reassure me later, away from their prying eyes. Don't listen to them. I love you for who you are, not where you come from. The day I found out I was pregnant was pure joy. Jack and I had been hoping for this news, and seeing that positive test, we couldn't wait to share it. We decided to announce it at a family dinner, hoping it would be a moment of celebration that might bring everyone together. As dishes passed and conversation flowed, Jack squeezed my hand under the table, a silent signal that it was time. Clearing his throat, he stood up, the clinking of his glass calling for silence. Family, I have some wonderful news. Emily and I are expecting our first child. The reaction was mixed, with some offering congratulations and others stunned into silence. But Lisa's face was marked by unmistakable resentment. Her tight-lipped smile never reached her eyes, and her words were tinged with bitterness. It must be nice being able to have kids, Lisa muttered under her breath, her voice barely a whisper but heavy with pain. Some of us aren't so lucky. I reached out, touching her arm gently. Lisa, hi. She jerked away. You wouldn't understand, Emily. This should have been me. Her words stung, but I knew her struggle with infertility was a sensitive topic. I had hoped our news would bring her some joy, but it seemed to only deepen her despair. The tension from that dinner lingered, and a few weeks later, during my baby shower, it reached a boiling point. Hidden behind a row of beautifully wrapped gifts, I overheard a conversation that chilled me to the bone. Just think about it, Jack. It could be a solution for everyone. His mother whispered, her voice low and conspiratorial. But Mom, it's our baby. Jack's protest was weak, his tone filled with conflict. Lisa needs this, Jack. It would solve so many problems. You and Emily can always have another child. My heart pounded in my chest as the reality of their words sank in. They were discussing giving my baby to Lisa. Tears blurred my vision as the betrayal cut deep. How could they even think about this? How could Jack? I stayed hidden until their conversation moved on to other trivialities, my mind racing. The rest of the shower passed in a haze. I smiled and thanked guests, all while my thoughts spiraled out of control. That night, I confronted Jack, but it didn't go as I had hoped. As soon as I brought up what I had overheard, he tried to downplay everything, insisting it was just a hypothetical discussion, not something they were seriously considering. It was just a conversation, Emily. We weren't actually planning to go through with it, Jack explained, his voice a mix of frustration and desperation. How can you even discuss our baby like that? How can you not see how wrong that is? My voice cracked, the hurt too raw, too deep to contain. Jack sighed, running his hands through his hair, a sign of his stress. I know it sounds bad, but you have to understand my position. Lisa has been struggling, and Mom, she just wants to fix things. By giving away our child? I shot back, incredulous. Does my opinion not matter? Am I just an incubator to your family? Jack paused, his expression pained. Of course not. You know I love you. It was just a suggestion. We wouldn't have done anything without your agreement. But the damage was done. The trust I had in Jack, in us, had been shattered. How could I believe in his promises when, behind closed doors, they were contemplating such a betrayal? I felt more alone than ever. The man I loved, the family I had tried so hard to be a part of, had let me down in the most unimaginable way. The realization that I was nothing more than an outsider to them, someone to be used for their own ends, was devastating. The nights that followed were sleepless, filled with tears and the echoing words of their conversation. During the days, I moved through my routines mechanically, each action a reminder of the facade my life with Jack had become. Jack tried to make amends, his apologies filling the space between us with more words but no comfort. Emily, please, let's talk about this. We can sort this out, he pleaded, his texts and calls becoming more frequent as I pulled away. But there was nothing left to sort out. The betrayal had cut too deep, the wound too raw and festering with each passing day. The home we had built together felt like a trap, lined with the echoes of whispered plans and broken trust. In the silence of our bedroom, staring at the shadows dancing across the ceiling, I made my decision. I couldn't stay, not with the weight of betrayal hanging over me, not with the constant reminder of what they had intended for my child. I needed to leave, to find a safe haven where my baby and I could start anew, free from the toxic ties that bound us to Jack and his family's manipulative schemes. With my decision made, the planning began in earnest. I reached out to my best friend Anna, who had always been my rock. "I need to get out, Anna. I can't stay here. It's not safe for me or the baby." "We'll figure this out, Emily. Let's plan carefully," Anna responded immediately, her voice calm and resolute. Together, we crafted a meticulous plan designed to ensure my departure went unnoticed until it was too late to stop me. The urgency of the situation lent a surreal quality to the preparations. While Jack was at work, I packed each piece of clothing, every cherished photograph and essential baby items, quietly stowing them away in suitcases and boxes. Anna helped, her presence a comforting reminder that I wasn't alone. "Make sure you take all the important documents, birth certificates, your passport, anything you might need," Anna advised as she checked off items from our list. Her practicality anchored me, keeping the waves of emotion at bay long enough to focus on what needed to be done. The emotional weight of leaving my life behind was overwhelming. Each drawer emptied, each memory packed away, felt like erasing parts of a past that once held so much promise. But with each item packed, my resolve strengthened. This was for my child, for our future, free from manipulation and deceit. By the time Jack returned home, the house looked as it usually did, but the essence of my presence was gone. The finality hit me as I zipped up the last suitcase. "Ready?" Anna asked, handing me a travel mug of coffee for the road. "As I'll ever be," I replied, taking a deep breath as we loaded the car. The drive away from the house was a mix of fear and relief. I watched in the rearview mirror as my former life faded into the distance, a chapter closed with a silent vow to never look back. We drove to a small apartment Anna had arranged for me in a different city. It was modest but safe, a temporary sanctuary where I could gather my thoughts and plan the next steps. As I settled into my new apartment, the reality of my situation began to sink in. For the first time in years, I was truly on my own, starting over. The path ahead felt daunting, but the thought of my baby safe and sound in my womb gave me the courage to face whatever lay ahead. With the door of my new apartment firmly closed behind me and the sounds of a busy city outside, I felt the first stirrings of peace. Here, in this anonymous setting, I could rebuild, redefine, and reclaim my life on my own terms. The divorce proceedings were grueling. My lawyer presented the case, detailing Jack's family's intentions for my baby. The courtroom felt oppressively silent as Jack sat across the aisle, his expression a mix of regret and disbelief as his own texts and conversations with his mother were laid bare before the judge. "It is evident that there was a plan to manipulate the custody of the child to benefit Mr. Jack's last name sister against the wishes of the mother," my lawyer stated firmly, her voice echoing in the tense courtroom. Jack's lawyer attempted to downplay the situation, suggesting misunderstandings and family pressures, but the evidence was irrefutable. When the judge finally ruled, Jack was denied any form of custody, granting me full rights. It was a bittersweet victory, necessary, yet heart-wrenching, knowing that it stemmed from such profound betrayal. Following the proceedings, I secured a restraining order against Jack's family. The relief that came with the court's protection was palpable. I was free, legally and emotionally, from the people who had tried to undermine my role as a mother. Now, in a new city, I focused on building a life for my child and me. Anna was instrumental during this time, helping me find a community of supportive friends and connecting me with local groups for single mothers. Her unwavering support was a constant reminder of the goodness in people, a stark contrast to the manipulations I had left behind. I settled into a routine, filling my days with preparations for the baby's arrival. Decorating the nursery became a project that brought me joy and anticipation. I chose soft, neutral colors and comfortable furnishings, creating a sanctuary for my new beginning. The support network I built was invaluable. They offered not just practical help, but emotional sustenance. We shared stories, advice, and many meals, creating bonds that felt more like family than some of my own blood relations had been. As I walked through the local park, pushing a stroller with my sleeping baby, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The trees were lush and the path familiar, each step a testament to my resilience. I had made it through the storm, and here I was on the other side, my baby giggling at the sight of fluttering leaves. This new life was hard-earned but profoundly fulfilling. As I looked down at my child, I knew that every decision, every difficult step taken, was worth it. Here, in this quiet, simple life, I found my closure and my joy. I had not only survived, but I had also thrived, proving to myself that no matter the challenge, I could build a future of hope and love for my child, free from the shadows of the past. And that brings us to the end of Emily's story. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think about the idea of family obligations versus individual rights? Should family always have a say in personal decisions, or is there a line that shouldn't be crossed? Drop your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And if you found Emily's story compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more discussions like this. Your engagement helps us keep sharing these real-life stories. Hey everyone, I'm Jenna. Before we jump into my story, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more updates. Okay, let's dive in. Living with Sean has been a roller coaster of love and chaos, with a surprising side of family drama that no one would envy. We tied the knot 2 years ago, believing we were embarking on a life full of shared dreams and mutual respect, not just between us, but with our families as well. But things got complicated when Sean's mom, Linda, refused to let go of his ex Diane. Yeah, you heard that right. It's like Linda never accepted their breakup. She's pulled some stunts that are hard to believe, like last Christmas when she gave Diane a family heirloom necklace right in front of me, saying it was meant for the one Sean was truly meant to be with. Ouch, right? And it doesn't stop there. Every family gathering, you can bet Diane is there, strutting around like she owns the place, with Linda looking at her like she's the daughter she never had. Sean, he's been stuck in the middle, trying to smooth things over, telling me to just ignore it. But how do you ignore a fire blazing right in your backyard? Fast forward to last week, and we get this fancy envelope in the mail. I knew it was from Linda before I even saw the return address. Inside was an invitation to her 49th birthday bash, and at the bottom, it casually mentioned that special friend Diane would also be there, like she was some kind of VIP guest. That's when I realized this wasn't just any birthday party, it was a setup for something more dramatic. I showed the invite to Sean, and I could see that familiar tightness in his jaw. We have to go, he said, but this time it ends. No more of this, Jenna. I promise. So there we were, strategizing like generals before a battle, how to confront Linda and finally put an end to the constant undermining. The plan was simple. Go, confront, and if needed, cut ties. Sean assured me that no matter what happened, we were in this together. As soon as we walked into Linda's house, the tension was thick in the air. The living room was decked out in lavish decor, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. Diane was already there, mingling and laughing a little too loudly, a glass of champagne in hand. Happy you could make it, Sean, she said, fluttering her eyelashes as we approached. Sean just nodded, his grip tightening on my hand, while I managed a tight-lipped smile, saving my energy for the real showdown. It was clear that this wasn't just any birthday celebration. There was a sinister undercurrent to the festivities. And then it happened. Linda clinked her glass, calling for everyone's attention. Thank you, everyone, for joining my special day. And now I have a little surprise. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, making my stomach churn. She motioned Diane forward. Many of you remember the lovely Diane, Sean's first love. The murmurs grew as Diane stepped up beside Linda, beaming. Today we also commemorate what would have been their 5th anniversary of being together, Linda announced as she presented Diane with a small velvet box. Inside was the promise ring Sean had given Diane years ago. My heart sank as Diane held it up for everyone to see. Sean, do you remember this? Diane's voice was sugary sweet, her eyes locked on his. That was the last straw. Sean's face hardened as he stepped forward, his voice loud and clear, cutting through the chatter. This ends now. Linda, Diane, what you're doing is disrespectful and hurtful, not just to Jenna, but to me as well. I won't stand for it any longer. You can't be serious, Sean. We're just reminiscing about the good old days, Linda said, trying to brush it off, but it only fueled his anger. No, Mom, it's manipulative and cruel. We came here today in good faith, and this is what we walk into. I'm done. Jenna and I, we're done with this. The room fell silent, everyone's eyes on us. Diane's smile faltered. We're leaving, Sean declared, turning to me. Our hands linked, we made our way to the door, the weight of 1,000 eyes on our backs. Stepping outside into the cool night air felt like a cleansing breath after the stifling tension inside. We need to rethink everything, Jenna. How we handle them, how we protect our peace, Sean said as we walked to the car, his voice firm but weary. I squeezed his hand, feeling the resolve harden in both of us. Together, I assured him, knowing that whatever came next, our united front was the only way forward. The ride home was a blur of streetlights and silence, each of us lost in our thoughts about the night's chaos. As we finally pulled into our driveway, Sean broke the silence. We can't let this go on. It's not just about tonight, it's every gathering, every call. It's constant. You're right, it's like they feed off the drama. We need boundaries, real ones, not just talk. The next morning, over coffee still heavy with the residue of the night before, Sean and I laid out our plan. It was drastic, but necessary. Sean pulled out his phone, scrolling through the texts, proof of the relentless interference from Linda and Diane. Later, we received a call from Diane, her voice shaky, panic lacing her words. Sean, you need to come quick. Your mom, she had a fall. It's bad. I watched Sean's expression shift from concern to skepticism. We'll be right there, he replied, but as soon as he hung up, he turned to me. Something doesn't feel right. Let's be prepared for anything. Sure enough, when we arrived at Linda's, we found her and Diane sitting on the porch, perfectly fine, a smug look on Linda's face. Got you to come, didn't it? We need to talk, Sean. This whole thing is just silly, using fake emergencies to manipulate us. That's low, even for you, Mom. I ignored your last text pretending Diane was hospitalized, expecting me to rush over. It's over, Linda. We're not doing this anymore. Sean, I'm your mother. You can't just cut me out. And Diane, she's been so helpful through all of this. It's over, Linda. Listen to me. It's over. The ride home was quiet, but the decision was clear. We needed that restraining order. It wasn't just about creating distance anymore. It was about protecting our safety and mental health. We knew what we had to do. We called a lawyer friend, Mark, who specialized in such matters. Hey Mark, we need advice on a restraining order. It's gotten out of hand with Sean's mom and his ex. Mark was quick to respond. You've got enough gear for a case. Harassment, emotional distress. Let's meet tomorrow. Bring everything, texts, emails, any records of these stunts. Meeting with Mark was eye-opening. He laid out our options, detailing the steps for filing a restraining order. It felt like a heavy decision, but with each recounted event, the necessity became clearer. Let's get this paperwork started. You two need peace to move forward, Mark advised as we provided him with all the evidence we had collected. That night, as we discussed our next steps, the idea of moving came up. We should consider getting out of here, start fresh somewhere new, I suggested, the weight of our recent troubles pressing down. Sean nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. Yeah, somewhere far from all this drama. We could really use a clean slate. The following weeks were a whirlwind of real estate listings and late-night discussions about where to move. We wanted somewhere peaceful, a community that felt like a retreat from our current turmoil. How about Asheville? It's beautiful, quiet, lots of nature. Could be the fresh start we're looking for, Sean proposed one evening, showing me pictures of misty mountains and vibrant fall colors. I smiled, imagining a life free from unwanted intrusions. Asheville sounds perfect. Let's do it. The decision made, we started the process, contacting realtors, planning a visit to Asheville, and slowly detaching ourselves from the toxic orbit of Linda and Diane. It wasn't just about moving physically, but emotionally and mentally distancing ourselves, reinforcing our boundaries with concrete actions. As our plan solidified, so did our resolve. No more unannounced visits, no more manipulative texts, just the future we chose, on our terms. Boxes filled every corner of our new home, a symbol of the fresh start we so desperately needed. Sean and I moved around the space, unpacking our lives bit by bit, piecing together a new sanctuary away from the chaos we left behind. Can you believe how quiet it is here? Sean marveled as he sat down a box labeled kitchen stuff. I know. It's like we can finally hear ourselves think. As we unpacked, every item sparked a small memory, a reminder of what we had endured and what we hoped to build here. We organized, decorated, And in each small decision, we found glimpses of the peace we sought. Later, as we sat surrounded by half-unpacked boxes, our phones beeped almost simultaneously. Messages from Linda and Diane. Attempts to breach the walls we had built. We looked at each other, a silent agreement passing between us. Time to block these numbers for good. With a few taps, the final ties were cut. The silence that followed felt like the first true breath of freedom. I can't say I won't miss some parts of the past, but I won't miss the drama. And we'll make better memories here, ones that nobody can spoil. As night fell, we took a walk around our new neighborhood. The streets were quiet, the air fresh. It felt like walking into a new life, the weight of the past slowly lifting with each step we took. Do you think we handled everything right? I asked as we paused. We did what we had to do to protect our peace. That's all anyone can do. I've learned that some ties need to be cut to make room for better ones, and it's okay to put ourselves first. Absolutely. It's about us now and our future. That night, back at our place, we reflected more on our journey. The battles with Linda and Diane had taught us more about ourselves, about our strengths and the depths of our resolve. Never thought we'd have to go through all that. **, Jenna's closing chapter, **. I guess it's made us stronger, huh? Sean mused, a gentle smile playing on his lips. It has, I agreed. I'm just glad we're on the other side of it now. And I'm glad I had you with me through all of it. I couldn't have done it without you, Sean. Same here, Jenna, he replied, squeezing my hand. Here's to new beginnings. Our journey wasn't easy, but it brought us to a place where we could finally feel at ease. In our new home, we could build the future we'd always dreamed of, free from the shadows of the past. Our days in the new community began with morning jogs in the park and coffee at the little cafe around the corner. The locals were a friendly bunch, eager to welcome the new faces. On one of these morning runs, we met Tom and Elisa, a couple around our age who quickly became fixtures in our lives. Finally got some fresh blood in the neighborhood, Tom joked as he handed us 2 steaming cups of coffee. We were starting to think we'd have to start importing friends, Elisa added with a laugh. Their warmth was a stark contrast to the cold manipulations we left behind. It wasn't long before our weekends were filled with barbecues and game nights, slowly stitching us into the fabric of our new surroundings. One lazy Sunday afternoon, as we relaxed in our backyard, the conversation turned to the future. I've been thinking about the nursery, maybe pastel colors or something neutral. I mused, the idea of starting a family now a real and exciting prospect. Whatever you think, babe, I'm just excited at the thought of little versions of us running around, Sean said with a smile. Our laughter was light, free from the shadows of the past. It was during one of these gatherings that we heard the news about Linda and Diane. Elisa, ever the social media sleuth, brought it up casually, her phone displaying the feed. Looks like karma really does have a way of catching up. Did you see this about Diane? Curiosity piqued, I leaned over, reading the post detailing Diane's recent fallout with her job and social circle. Accusations of deceit and manipulation had left her isolated, a social pariah. She's moved away, and Linda isn't faring much better. She tried organizing another big event, and practically no one showed up. It's all over the local forums. I heard she's been selling off assets, some serious financial troubles. Tom chimed in. The news stirred a complex whirl of emotions within me, but I found myself feeling mostly relief that their toxicity was no longer our burden. It's sad in a way, but it's the result of their choices. Guess they're finally getting a taste of their own medicine. Yeah, and we're just here, enjoying our peace. No looking back now. As fall turned to winter, our home became a cozy haven. The holiday season was particularly magical, our first in the new house. Decorations lined the streets, and our home glowed with lights and festive cheer. We hosted our first Thanksgiving, our friends filling the home with laughter and stories, a stark contrast to the strange family gatherings of the past. During one quiet evening, as we sat wrapped in blankets watching the snowfall, Sean pulled me closer. I've been thinking about how far we've come. It's been a journey, huh? It has, but look at us now, happier than ever. We made the right decisions, Sean, for us, for our future. I know, he said, his voice filled with conviction. And every day, I'm grateful for it, for us. We stuck together through everything. That's what made the difference. That's what will always make the difference. Nodding, I felt the truth of his words deep in my bones. Our past trials seemed distant now, Lessons that taught us the value of unity and the strength of our bond. I loved you, Sean, more than ever. And I love you, Jenna. Here's to us, to our future. Outside, the world was white and quiet, but inside, our home was warm with love and the promise of brighter days. Our journey had taught us the true value of peace, and as we looked ahead, we knew we were ready for whatever came our way, together. Sean and I made the choice to cut toxic ties and start fresh. Now we turn to you. What would you have done in our situation? Would you have tried to mend things despite the ongoing issues, or would you have taken the same path? It's a tough call, and everyone's circumstances are different. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep bringing you more stories like this. Thank you for watching, and we're excited to see what you think. Hi, I'm Emma. Before I get into what happened at the family barbecue, please make sure to like and subscribe for more stories like this one. It was a warm day, and the backyard buzzed with laughter and the sizzle of burgers on the grill. My husband, Alex, and I were hosting our annual family barbecue at his parents' house. It was one of those gatherings where everyone felt at ease, catching up over cold drinks and home-cooked food. Emma, could you pass the potato salad? Alex called out as he flipped another burger. Sure thing, I replied, weaving through family members sprawled across the lawn and on picnic chairs. Near the grill stood Alex's sister, Karen, hovering slightly apart from the festivities, her presence almost like a shadow. Karen was particular about her personal spaces, especially here at their parents' home, where she still kept a room despite no longer living there. Hey Karen, why don't you join us for a game of cornhole? I asked, trying to coax her into the fun. No thanks, Emma. I'm just enjoying the view from my spot, she replied, her eyes briefly meeting mine with a hint of tension in her smile. As the afternoon wore on, the downstairs bathroom became a hot spot, with a constant line forming outside the door. In need of a quick escape, I remembered the less used upstairs bathroom. I excused myself and headed inside, appreciating the brief respite from the crowd as I made my way upstairs. The house was cooler, the noise from outside muffled by the walls. As I reached the top, I heard faint music coming from Karen's old room, her personal sanctuary. Relieved, I pushed open the bathroom door and stepped inside. The bathroom was decorated with intricate tiles and lush plants, a stark contrast to the simpler one downstairs. After a quick wash, I stepped out, feeling refreshed. Suddenly, Karen appeared at the end of the hallway, her face contorted with anger. Emma, what the hell do you think you're doing? Startled, I replied, I just needed to use the bathroom. The other one was busy, and I thought, this is my bathroom. You have no right to just barge in here whenever you feel like it. Karen, it's just a bathroom. I didn't think it would be a problem. I'm sorry if I upset you. Her eyes narrowed, her voice icy. You should have waited downstairs. You know how I feel about my space. Trying to keep the peace, I responded softly, I understand, Karen, but it was urgent. I didn't mean to invade your space. Her reaction was swift and shocking, a push that sent me stumbling backward. My feet lost their grip, and the world tilted as I fell back toward the stairs. The last thing I remembered before everything went black was the sound of my own scream echoing off the walls. What started as a simple act of using a bathroom quickly escalated into a nightmare. I lay crumpled at the bottom of the stairs, pain radiating through my arm and head as the sounds of the barbecue faded into a distant hum. Karen stood at the top of the stairs, her face a mix of shock and defiance. You pushed her. I saw it. Alex's voice boomed as he rushed to my side, his hands gently checking over me. Karen, what were you thinking? Alex's mom exclaimed from behind, her voice filled with disbelief. It was an accident, she startled me. Karen's voice was shaky, but the edge of anger was still there. An accident? Karen, she's hurt. Alex snapped back, his concern turning into anger as he cradled my head in his lap. I told her not to use my bathroom. She never listens. Karen retorted, her justification falling flat among the gathering crowd. Enough, Karen. This isn't about a bathroom. Emma could be seriously injured, Alex's dad said sternly as he dialed for an ambulance. Groaning, I tried to sit up, but the pain in my arm surged and I cried out, It's broken, I think. I managed to whisper amidst the chaos. Why would you do this, Karen? Alex's aunt, who had come outside to see what the commotion was about, asked in a tone of utter confusion and dismay. I want my space to be respected, Karen murmured, more to herself than to anyone else, as if trying to justify her actions internally. The sound of sirens approached, breaking the tense silence that had fallen over the backyard. Paramedics rushed in, stabilizing my arm and preparing me for the hospital. Alex stayed by my side, his hand squeezing mine, a silent promise of support. As I was wheeled away, I caught a glimpse of Karen, isolated by her actions, as family members gathered in small clusters, discussing what had just transpired. Their faces were etched with anger, shock, and disappointment. This can't just be brushed under the rug, Alex whispered to his father, his voice filled with a resolve that told me this incident would forever alter our family dynamics. The last thing I saw before the ambulance doors closed was Karen's conflicted face watching me leave, and Alex's reassuring glance, letting me know that no matter what, we were in this together. The sterile smell of the hospital mingled with the dull ache in my arm as I lay in the bed, my head still spinning from the fall and the medication. Alex hovered nearby, his face a mixture of worry and anger. I can't believe Karen would go this far. It's insane, he muttered, pacing back and forth. Alex, have you spoken to your parents? What's everyone saying? My voice was weak, but I needed to know. Some are saying it's just a big misunderstanding, that Karen didn't mean it. But how can anyone justify pushing someone down the stairs? His voice cracked with frustration. I know it's hard, she's your sister. But Alex, she hurt me badly, I said, trying to sit up, wincing as pain shot through my arm. Alex rushed over, gently pushing me back onto the pillows. I know. I'm so sorry, Emma. I can't wrap my head around it. Just then, my phone buzzed with a message from Alex's cousin, Jenny. Emma, we're all shocked. Some of the family are siding with Karen, saying you provoked her by not respecting her boundaries. Reading it aloud, I felt a surge of frustration. Provoked? By using a bathroom? That's absurd. I don't care what they say. I'm with you. This isn't something we can just sweep under the carpet, Alex assured me, squeezing my hand. The door opened and Dr. Martin walked in, his expression serious. How are we feeling, Emma? We've got your x-rays back. You have a clean break in your forearm, but thankfully no serious head injuries. We're setting you up for a cast and you'll need plenty of rest. Thank you, doctor. Do you know when I can go home? I asked, eager to leave the hospital despite everything. Tomorrow, if everything looks good overnight. We want to make sure there are no complications from the concussion. As Dr. Martin left, Alex sat down next to me, his eyes somber. We need to decide what we're going to do about Karen. This can't go on. Alex, this isn't just about me anymore. It's about ensuring this doesn't happen to someone else. She needs help, real help. I replied, feeling the weight of the situation more than ever. You're right, I'll talk to my parents again. This isn't just a family squabble, it's serious. As night fell, the soft beeping of the hospital machines kept me company, my thoughts racing about the future. Tomorrow I would go home, but the real healing was just beginning for my body and our family. Back at home, the living room was tense, the usual chatter replaced by a heavy silence as we gathered for the family meeting Alex had arranged. He was determined to address what had happened. Every seat was filled, and everyone's eyes occasionally darted towards the empty chair save for Karen. When she finally walked in, the room's temperature seemed to drop, her presence sending ripples of discomfort across the room. You didn't need to call everyone like this, Alex, Karen muttered, avoiding eye contact as she took her seat. We're here because what you did to Emma is unacceptable, Karen. You hurt her badly, and we need to talk about it, Alex said firmly, his usual easygoing nature gone. Karen, why did you push Emma? Grandma asked, her voice trembling slightly, not wanting to believe what had occurred. It was an accident. I've told everyone 1,000 times. She invaded my space, and I reacted. That's it. Karen's tone was defensive, her arms crossed. That's not just it, Karen. You could have seriously injured Emma, or worse, I said, feeling the strength of my conviction despite my physical weakness. A bathroom isn't worth someone's safety. How can you justify hurting someone over something so trivial? Uncle Joe chimed in, his brow furrowed in confusion. Karen shifted uncomfortably. I told her before about using my things. She never listens. I didn't know using a bathroom would lead to me being hospitalized, I replied, my voice firm. Karen, we need to feel safe around each other. If we can't, then what kind of family are we? My voice grew stronger, bolstered by the nods of agreement around the room. It's about respect, Karen, Alex added. What if something worse had happened? Would you still justify it as protecting your personal space? Karen looked around, her usual bravado diminishing as she met the eyes of the family. None of them were on her side. I didn't think it was that serious. It is serious. It's about more than just a bathroom. It's about how we treat each other, about understanding and respecting boundaries that matter. I continued, my gaze steady on her. You all are making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. Karen stood up abruptly, her chair clattering back. This is exactly the problem, Karen. Even now, you're not taking responsibility for your actions. Alex's disappointment was palpable. With that, Karen stormed out, the door slamming shut behind her, leaving a resounding echo in the room. The remaining family members exchanged glances, the air filled with a mix of relief and sadness. Alex reached for my hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. We'll sort this out, Emma, together, he whispered as the family began to discuss how to heal and move forward, united by a renewed understanding of what truly mattered. Weeks passed, and my recovery progressed steadily. Alex was by my side every step of the way, his support unwavering. Our bond, forged in the adversity we faced, felt stronger than ever. Conversations about Karen grew sparse, her presence in our lives diminishing as naturally as the autumn leaves fell from the trees. I heard Karen lost her job. Alex mentioned one evening as we sat on our porch, the cool air refreshing. Really? What happened? My curiosity piqued despite my attempts to distance myself from anything related to her. Some sort of altercation at work. It seems her temper got the better of her again. A few of her friends have stepped back too. Alex sighed, the disappointment still lingering in his voice. It's sad, really. I wish it didn't have to come to all this. But maybe it's the wake-up call she needed. I mused, hoping that this might lead Karen to some self-reflection. Yeah, maybe. How are you feeling about everything now? Alex looked at me, his eyes searching for any signs of unresolved pain. Stronger, in many ways. It's strange, but facing that kind of betrayal from someone you thought was family, it makes you realize the importance of standing up for yourself. I paused, taking in the quiet around us. And how about us? Alex reached for my hand, his touch warm and comforting. We good, Alex. Better than good. This whole ordeal made me see just how lucky I am to have you, he said with a smile that spread across my face, reflecting the deep-seated peace I felt. As the days turned into weeks, the impact of Karen's actions reverberated through her life, leaving her isolated from those she once held close. It was a harsh reality brought on by her own choices. One afternoon, my mom called. I just wanted to check on you, dear, and to tell you that we've all learned a lot from what happened. It's brought us closer, made us more aware of what's truly important. I feel that too, Mom. It's been a tough lesson, but a necessary one, I replied, the conviction in my voice stronger than ever. Reflecting on everything, I realized the power of self-respect and the vital importance of boundaries. What happened with Karen was a test of my resolve, but it also showcased the resilience not just of an individual, but of a family willing to confront and address toxic behavior. Sitting back, I looked at Alex, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Life would move forward, and while the scars remained, they were a testament to a battle fought and won against toxicity, ensuring a safer, happier existence for both of us. As I turned my gaze back to the sunset, I knew this wasn't just the end of a painful chapter, but the beginning of something new, something better, forged from the lessons of the past. Now that the story has reached its conclusion, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about setting personal boundaries within a family? Is there a point where enforcing these boundaries can go too far, or should personal space always be respected, no matter the context? I'm really interested in hearing your opinions, so please share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot and helps us keep bringing you stories that spark conversation and thought. Hi, I'm Lisa, a 30-year-old mother of two amazing kids. Before I dive into my story, please don't forget to like and subscribe to follow along with more tales from my life. Now, let's get into the heart of it. Living on property owned by my in-laws with my husband and our kids seemed perfect at first. It was one of those setups where you imagine big family dinners and cousins growing up more like siblings. But things took an unexpected turn when my brother-in-law, Mark, moved into the house next door with his wife and their 3 kids. Initially, it was just small favors, watching Mark's kids for an hour here and there. "Hey, Lisa, could you watch them while I run to the store?" Seemed reasonable at first, but as weeks passed, the favors became demands. "Just keep an eye on them this afternoon, will you? I've got errands." Mark's casual requests soon became a daily routine. One afternoon turned into every afternoon, and before I knew it, I was practically a full-time sitter, unpaid and exhausted. Even my own kids started to notice. "Mom, why are you always watching Uncle Mark's kids? Don't we do stuff anymore?" Each question broke my heart. I loved my nieces and nephews, but I missed my own kids. Our afternoons filled with little adventures and lazy picnics in the backyard. When I confronted Mark about it, the conversation didn't go as I'd hoped. "Lisa, you know we all have to pitch in. We live on family property. It's not just about you and your little family. We're all in this together, right?" His tone had a sharpness I hadn't expected. It felt less like a question and more like a warning. The implication was clear. My living situation was leverage he was ready to use. I tried talking to my husband about it. "Honey, I'm really struggling with the amount of time I'm spending with Mark's kids. It's becoming too much." He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck anxiously. "I know, Lisa, but what do you want me to do? Mark is family, and he's right next door. Plus, Mom and Dad wouldn't want us to cause a stir." His words stung. Not only was I feeling overwhelmed and exploited, but now it seemed like I was alone in this struggle. Mark's demands were straining my relationship with my own children and my husband. I lay awake that night, the weight of my husband's nonchalance and Mark's entitlement suffocating me. I love my family, but at what point did my duties to them outweigh my responsibilities to my own children and to myself? As the days passed, the strain grew. Each request from Mark added to an invisible barrier building between me and my sense of freedom. I needed a solution, a way to reclaim my life and ensure my children didn't feel like secondary characters in their own home story. But with every passing day, the answer seemed to slip further away, buried under familial obligations and the fear of upsetting a delicate balance that had never really favored me to begin with. "Come on, Lisa. It's just a few hours more each week. You're helping the family. Isn't that what we should all be doing?" Mark's words were smooth, but the edge behind them was impossible to miss. "You know we're tight right now, Mark. I've got my job. The kids have their schedules. I can't manage all this without something giving way. Look, if you can't prioritize what's important, maybe you shouldn't be here at all. I'm sure I can talk to Mom and Dad about this situation." His threat hung in the air, thick and heavy. The idea of being evicted because I couldn't meet his demands was absurd, yet terrifyingly possible. His words echoed in my head, a relentless reminder of the precarious thread our lives hung by. Later that evening, I tried to open up to my husband about it. He was tired, the lines on his face deeper after a long day. Mark mentioned talking to his parents if I don't comply with what he wants. Can you believe that? Using their house as leverage? He paused, the wariness in his eyes shifting to discomfort. "He's my brother. He wouldn't really do that, would he? Maybe it's just his way of nudging you to help more." "That's not a nudge. That's a threat. And why am I the only one who has to help more? Why doesn't he ask the same of anyone else?" He didn't answer, just shifted his gaze to the floor, a silent admission that left a cold dread settling in my stomach. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as the reality of my situation became clearer. Days passed, and the tension grew. Conversations with Mark became a careful dance around landmines, each word measured, each sentence weighed for impact. "Why can't your wife help with the kids sometimes? Why is it always me?" Mark laughed, a harsh sound that grated on my nerves. "Because she's busy with her new project, and you, well, you're just here, aren't you? Available and capable. Think of it as your contribution to our collective well-being. Being available doesn't mean I'm at your disposal, Mark. This is unfair to me or my kids." He shrugged, dismissive. "Fair is relative. Look, just think about it. What I said about talking to the parents, maybe that'll help clarify things for you." Mark's threat was no longer just an implication. It was explicit, a sword dangling over my head, and with my husband's passive stance, the fight felt singularly mine to wage. That night, as I tucked my kids into bed, their innocent chatter about school and friends was a stark contrast to the weight of my adult burdens. I knew I had to find a solution. The idea of losing our home loomed large, but losing myself to Mark's demands was a cost too great. I needed a plan, something to shift the balance, to give me back some control. But in the dead of night, with only the soft breathing of my children as company, solution seemed as distant as the stars outside their window. As I stood in our cramped living room, the air charged with tension, Mark's voice cut through the silence like a knife. "You do realize you're living under my parents' roof because of my goodwill, right? Think about where you'd be without that." His words stung, the implication clear and sharp. He was marking his territory, and in his eyes, I was nothing more than a tenant on borrowed time. "Your goodwill, Mark. We're family. It's supposed to be about support, not hanging debts over each other's heads." Mark sneered, his eyes cold. "Support? I'm supporting the whole family by letting you stay here. And how do you repay me? By complaining and shirking your responsibilities." The word responsibilities echoed mockingly. I felt a surge of anger, fed up with being treated like a pawn in his control game. Taking care of your children is not my responsibility, and using this house as leverage is low, even for you. He stepped closer, his voice lowering into a threatening whisper. "Think very carefully about your next steps, Lisa. This isn't just about you and me, it's about where your kids will grow up." The threat hung heavy between us. After he left, I sat down, my mind racing. The fear of eviction was real, but so was my resolve not to let Mark manipulate me any further. I picked up my phone, hesitating only a moment before dialing my friend Jenny's number. "Jenny, I need some advice, some serious advice." Jenny's voice was a lifeline. "What's going on, Lisa?" I poured out everything, from Mark's threats to the crushing weight of dependency. "I can't live like this, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. I need a way out." "You're smart and talented, Lisa. Have you thought about looking for a job? Something that could get you out of there?" The idea sparked a sliver of hope. "I've thought about it, but I haven't taken any steps yet. I guess I was hoping things would get better." "Hope's important, but it won't change your situation. You need a plan. Start job hunting seriously. Maybe look into some remote work that you can do while the kids are at school." Motivated by Jenny's encouragement, I spent the next few days scouring job listings and updating my resume. I found several promising leads, jobs that could indeed pave the way to financial independence and, more importantly, freedom from Mark's control. Each application I sent out felt like a small victory, a step toward reclaiming my life. The fear of upheaval lingered, but the more I acted, the more empowered I felt. I wasn't just fighting for my autonomy. I was fighting for my family's future, and with each step, the path ahead became a little clearer, the shadows cast by Mark's threats a little less daunting. Armed with a notebook hidden in the kitchen drawer, I began documenting every interaction with Mark, every command he issued, every threat he muttered. It was meticulous, sometimes draining work, but each entry was a step toward my liberation. One sunny afternoon, while the kids played in the yard, I approached Sarah, Mark's usually quiet sister-in-law. "Sarah, have you ever felt overwhelmed by Mark's expectations?" I ventured cautiously. Sarah paused, glancing around before leaning closer. "Overwhelmed? More like drowning. It's always do this, do that. I sometimes wonder if he thinks we're his staff, not his family." I nodded, feeling a spark of alliance. "I'm trying to do something about it, Sarah. I'm documenting everything. If we ever need to stand up to him, really stand up, we'll need proof." Sarah's eyes widened slightly, then she nodded. "Count me in. It's high time someone did something. What do you need me to do?" "Just keep track of anything he says, or does that feels off. Write it down, and we can compile it." With Sarah's support, I felt a renewed vigor. Our clandestine conversations became regular snippets of solidarity that bolstered my courage. Encouraged, I reached out to other relatives. Subtly, I began weaving a network of the overlooked and underappreciated within our family. We shared stories, documented grievances, and a quiet rebellion started to form right under Mark's nose. Meanwhile, I intensified my job search. Late at night, after the kids were asleep, I scoured job boards and sent out applications. The breakthrough came unexpectedly, a call for an interview for a remote position that fit my skills and schedule perfectly. Thank you for considering my application. I'm very excited about the opportunity to contribute, I said during the interview, my voice steady despite the butterflies in my stomach. The interviewer's response was encouraging. We're impressed with your resume, Lisa. We think you'd be a great fit. When the job offer arrived via email, it felt like a lifeline thrown across stormy seas. The salary was more than enough to consider a move. I printed the offer, the paper tangible proof of a potential new beginning. That night, I laid the offer on the kitchen table, tracing the words with my fingers, allowing myself to imagine a life free from Mark's shadow. I planned out the next steps, budgeting, looking for a rental, and discussing the move with the kids. As the plan solidified, I felt a mix of fear and excitement, but above all, there was determination. I wasn't just plotting an escape for my own family, I was setting a precedent. Perhaps in doing so, I would light a beacon for others in my family, showing that Mark's control was not absolute, that change was possible. We were not just his pawns, we were players too, and it was our move. With a new job secured and my dossier of evidence thick with documented grievances, I called for a family meeting. It was time to bring everything into the open. As everyone gathered, the air was thick with tension, anticipation mingling with the faint hope of resolution. Mark, unaware of my newfound position, carried his usual air of authority. I've called this meeting because there are things we need to discuss as a family, I began, my voice stronger than I felt. It's about our family dynamics, about how we treat each other. Mark scoffed lightly. What is this? A therapy session? Come on, Lisa, what's the real reason we're here? Ignoring his remark, I continued pulling out my notes. It's about fairness, respect, and boundaries, things that have been sorely lacking. I looked around, meeting the eyes of my family members. Many of us have felt overshadowed by Mark's demands and expectations. It's time we address this. One by one, I read the entries from my notes, instances where Mark had overstepped, times he manipulated our dependencies for his gain. The room grew quieter with each example, the weight of the words settling around us. Then, unexpectedly, Sarah spoke up. Lisa's right, I've felt it too. Mark, you've been taking us for granted, using our gratitude for this home to control us. Others chimed in, their voices tentative but growing in confidence. The grievances poured out, not with anger, but with a plea for change. Mark looked around, the realization dawning that his usual tactics wouldn't work this time. I didn't realize you all felt this way. I thought we were just functioning as a family. It's not functioning if it's only working for you, I said, my tone steady. We need to find a balance where everyone feels respected. The discussion that followed was long overdue. We talked about expectations, responsibilities, and most importantly, respect. By the end, the family dynamic had shifted perceptibly. Mark, faced with the collective voice of the family, had to acknowledge his overreach. In the weeks that followed, I prepared for our move. The decision to leave was bittersweet, filled with the promise of independence but tinged with the sadness of change. We found a small house, not far, but far enough to start anew. On moving day, as I looked back at the house that had been both a haven and a prison, I felt a surge of relief. Mark was there too, quieter, his usual bravado dimmed by the family's stand. We're starting over, Mark, I said, not unkindly. Maybe now you'll rethink how you treat people. He nodded, the gesture small but significant. As we drove away, the weight of years seemed to lift. We were moving towards something new, something ours. And back at the old house, a family was learning to rebuild not just their relationships, but their understanding of each other. Now that our story has ended, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Should family property ever be used as leverage in personal conflicts? Drop your opinions in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Hi, I'm Rachel, a 32-year-old mother who's navigated more family drama than most people should have to face. Before I dive into my story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life tales from the chaotic world of family dynamics. Let's get started. When I married Tom, I didn't just gain a husband. I inherited a whirlwind in the form of my mother-in-law, Linda. From the very beginning, Linda made it clear she thought I wasn't good enough for her son. She had this knack for walking into a room and instantly draining the joy from it with her unsolicited advice and constant critiques. Rachel, don't you think Lily needs more structured playtime? You're too lenient with her upbringing, Linda would say, as if my parenting needed her stamp of approval. And Tom, he would just nod along, never once defending me. One sunny Tuesday, I decided to redecorate Lily's room. I thought light lavender walls might brighten it up. As I laid out the paint samples, Linda waltzed in, her eyebrows raised like she had just smelled something foul. That color is all wrong, too cold for a child. You're not seriously considering it, are you? She scoffed, not waiting for my response before turning to Tom. Tell her she's making a mistake, she demanded, and as usual, Tom mumbled. Mom might be right, Rachel. It wasn't just her words. It was her constant presence, always hovering, always there. Dinner times were the worst. I'd spend hours preparing something special, only for Linda to scrutinize it like a judge at a cooking competition. This needs more salt. Honestly, Rachel, how hard is it to season properly? She'd critique while Tom quietly ate, never uttering a complaint unless his mother prompted him. Then came Lily's upcoming birthday. It was supposed to be a simple celebration, but Linda had other ideas. You know, a proper party would have real entertainment, not just homemade games. Shall I hire a magician? She suggested, dialing her phone before I could even respond. No, Linda, I've got it covered. I tried to intervene, but the icy look she shot me could have curdled milk. It's settled. Kids need something memorable, she said, ending the call and leaving me fuming in silence. Tom, as usual, just stood by, his voice barely audible. Maybe it's for the best, Rachel. Mom knows a lot of people. The day before Lily's birthday, I overheard Linda on the phone, bragging about how she had to step in to save the day from my underwhelming plans. Tears stung my eyes, not just from anger, but from a deep, growing despair. How much longer could I let this go on? How long before my daughter started to believe Linda's words over mine? That night, I turned to Tom in bed. Do you even hear how she speaks to me? To us? I pleaded, hoping he would finally see sense. Rachel, she's just trying to help. Maybe you're taking things too personally, he sighed, turning away, closing the conversation but leaving me wide awake with a heart full of wounds. As I lay there, the moon casting shadows across our room, I knew something had to change. This wasn't just about a birthday. It was about my life, my daughter's happiness, and the peace of our home. The storm Linda had brought into our lives was about to meet a quiet strength it had underestimated. Tomorrow, on Lily's birthday, I would stand up for myself, for Lily, and for our little family that deserves so much more. The morning of Lily's 5th birthday dawned crisp and bright, just the glimmer of hope I needed to follow through with my plans. I was up early, whisking batter and slicing strawberries, the kitchen filled with the sweet scent of anticipation. Today was about making it perfect for Lily. I arranged heart-shaped pancakes on a platter, the blueberries sparkling like little sapphires next to the golden, fluffy cakes. Mommy, is that for me? Lily's tiny voice broke the morning silence as she padded into the kitchen, her eyes wide with excitement. All for you, birthday girl, I said, kissing her forehead and setting her down at the table. Just then, the kitchen door swung open with a thud, and in stormed Linda, her face already twisted in disapproval. She didn't even greet Lily, just marched straight to the counter where the birthday breakfast lay. This is what you've made? Honestly, Rachel, this won't do at all. Linda's voice was sharp, cutting through the morning warmth like a cold breeze. I felt Lily's small hand squeeze mine, her joy dimming. But Grandma, I love Mommy's pancakes, Lily said softly. No, darling, you deserve better. Something grand, not this homemade mess, Linda declared, and before I could react, she scooped up the plates and dumped them into the trash. The sound of my efforts crashing into the bin echoed painfully in the kitchen. Linda, what are you doing? It's her birthday. I couldn't keep the tremor out of my voice, my hands balled into fists. Improving it, Linda retorted, eyeing the trash with satisfaction. The door opened again, and in came Tom, his expression bewildered. What's going on here? Your mother just threw out Lily's birthday breakfast, I said, my voice rising in disbelief and anger. Tom, why is she doing this? Tom looked from me to Linda, the conflict clear on his face. Mom, why would you do that? He asked. It wasn't suitable. I'm just looking out for Lily, Linda replied dismissively. This was important to us. To Lily, you can't just barge in and. Tom, tell her she's overreacting. It's just breakfast, and I can order something much better. Linda cut me off. turning to Tom with an air of finality that demanded obedience. I watched Tom falter, his resolve melting under his mother's expectant gaze. Rachel, maybe Mom's right. Let's just order in and avoid the fuss. I stared at him, my heart sinking. Lily tugged at my sleeve, her little face crumpled in confusion and hurt. Mommy, why did Grandma throw my pancakes away? Sweetie, how do you explain to your child that her grandmother values control over her happiness? Tom, this is your daughter's birthday. Your mother can't just. Rachel, let's not make this a big deal, okay? Let's just get through the day, Tom said, his voice weary and pleading. That was the moment it clicked. This wasn't just about pancakes or birthdays, it was about respect. About Lily growing up thinking this was normal. No, Tom. It's always let's just get through the day. When do we start living for us? For Lily? When do you stand up for your family? Tom hesitated, his eyes darting between me and Linda. I am standing up for my family. I'm keeping the peace. No, Tom, you're letting your mother walk all over us, I said, my voice rising, each word sharper than the last. Rachel, you're blowing this out of proportion. Am I? Or have I just had enough? The clarity was fierce within me. Linda, you need to leave now. Linda scoffed, turning to Tom. Are you going to let her kick me out? Tom's response was weak. Mom, maybe you should go. No, Tom, not maybe. You go with her. Choose who your family is because this. I swept my hand towards the trash breakfast. Lily, and I can't live like this. The room fell silent except for Lily's soft sniffling. The line was drawn. The gauntlet thrown. Today was the day I reclaimed our lives. The morning's upheaval gave way to a quiet thick with tension. I moved through it, picking up Linda's belongings scattered about. The weight of my decision anchored every step. I wasn't just cleaning up after breakfast. I was clearing out years of suppressed frustrations and sorrow. Rachel, are you sure about this? Maybe we can talk it out. Tom's voice followed me, filled with desperation and disbelief. Talk it out? Like all those other times? No, Tom, this is happening. My hands didn't shake as I packed Linda's bags. The clarity from my earlier decision sharpened with each folded sweater and tucked away toiletry. You're making a mistake, Rachel. You're overreacting. Linda's voice cut from the doorway, harsh and unyielding. I zipped up the last bag and stood facing them both. I'm making a choice for my daughter. For me, Lily deserves peace in her own home, and so do I. The cab idled outside, the driver looking at the house, then back down at his phone. I grabbed Linda's suitcase, the wheels thudding against each step as I dragged it to the door. Tom, please think about Lily. We can fix this, but not with her. My last plea was to the man I thought I knew, the man I thought would stand by his family. You're choosing her over your own wife and daughter, I said, my voice cracking. Your responsibility was to your wife and child first. I handed Linda her bag. Her sneer failed to hide the shock in her eyes. You'll regret this, she hissed, her words slipping through clenched teeth as she stepped into the cab. I already regret not doing it sooner, I said, shutting the door on her glare and turning to face Tom. His figure was slumped, torn, but his choice was made clear when he grabbed his own coat. Tom, you walk out that door, you don't come back. His pause was the last shred of hope fluttering to the floor. I'm sorry, Rachel. I hope one day you'll understand. With that, he stepped out the door, closing softly behind him, as if even it couldn't bear to make a sound. The finality was not a slam, but a soft click that echoed loudly in the suddenly empty house. Left alone, the silence was no longer oppressive but open with possibilities. I scooped Lily into my arms, her small body clinging to mine. It's just us now, baby. Just us. But we'll be okay, Mommy. Yes, just us now, and that's enough. We're enough. I kissed her forehead, her trust in me building my resolve. I walked through our home, each room a testament to a life I was ready to leave behind. My reflection in the mirror showed a woman changed, not broken, but rebuilding. Lily's hand in mine was a reminder of why this had to happen. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, her room now just as it should be, quiet, peaceful, I promised her better days. Her soft snores were a sweet counter to the harshness of the day. As I sat there watching her sleep, the weight of my choices settled around me like a cloak. It was heavy. I knew the road ahead would be tough. The whispers of the community, the sympathetic stares, the inevitable loneliness of single motherhood, it would all be part of the journey. But as I turned off Lily's light, a whisper of my own filled the room. We are enough. Navigating life as a single mom, the days melted into a routine of resilience and discovery. Lily's laughter became the soundtrack of our new life, filling spaces that once echoed with tension. But with new beginnings came new challenges, especially the legal ties that needed untangling. Tom and I had to formalize our separation. I just want what's best for Lily, I explained over the phone to my lawyer. The papers spread like a fan across the kitchen table. He can see her, but it has to be healthy for her. No sudden drop-ins, especially not with Linda. Understood, Rachel. I'll draft the visitation terms clearly. You're doing great, keeping things straightforward, my lawyer assured me. The calls were frequent, each one a step toward legal clarity but emotional complexity. The community whispered, but those whispers couldn't drown out the louder voices of friends and family who stood by us, supporting our small do in every way they could. One evening, Lily asked, "Mommy, why doesn't Daddy live with us anymore?" Her small face was puzzled as she played with her food. Sometimes people need a little space to remember how to love each other, right? Daddy and I needed that space, I said, keeping my tone light, honest but shielded from harsher truths. Do you miss him? I miss who I thought he was, I admitted, not just to Lily but to myself. The days grew colder, the first frost kissing the windows as I dropped Lily off at school. One morning, while waiting at the gates, another mother, Mia, approached with a tentative smile. Rachel, it's been a while since coffee mornings, hasn't it? Yeah, it's been hectic. I smiled back, grateful for the attempt to bridge the gap. Thanks, Mia. I might take you up on that. Community support was unexpected but welcomed, a warm balm on the loneliness that tried to seep through the cracks of newfound independence. Back at home, the phone rang, Tom's name flashing on the screen, a reminder of the thread still connecting us. Rachel, I've been thinking a lot about everything. I'm sorry for not standing by you for everything with Linda. I didn't see it then, but I do now. Tom, sorry doesn't change what happened. It doesn't change the decisions you made. Lily and I are moving forward. You should too. I know, I just hope you find happiness. We already are finding it, I said. Goodbye, Tom. Hanging up felt right. It wasn't about bitterness, it was about peace, about building a world where Lily and I could thrive. As I watched Lily run across the playground later that day, her laughter mingling with the crisp air, my heart felt full. This journey had taught me the unyielding power of a mother's love and the strength found in the freedom of letting go. We're doing okay, aren't we, Lily? I whispered as she sprinted towards me, her arms wide. The best, she said, her small arms wrapping around me, her world secure in the circle of my embrace. And that wraps up our story, folks. Now, here's a question for you all. If you were in Rachel's shoes, would you have given Tom a second chance if he sincerely tried to mend things, or do you believe some actions are too damaging to forgive? Dive into the comments and share your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the story and subscribe to stay updated with more content like this. Your support means a lot. Hi, I'm Melissa. Before I dive into this crazy story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you won't want to miss this wild ride. So here's a bit about me. I'm a 38-year-old single mom, working hard as a paralegal to give my daughter, Allison, the best life possible. It's been just the two of us since my ex, Jack, decided that fatherhood wasn't for him when Allison was 5. Fast forward to now. Allison's 17 and the light of my life. She's smart, kind, and beautiful inside and out. When Allison told me about prom, I was over the moon. Mom, Tyler asked me to prom. She squealed after school one day. I hugged her tight and said, "That's amazing, sweetie. We need to find you the perfect dress." Little did I know, that dress would cause more drama than I ever imagined. You see, there's a catch to our little family. My ex-mother-in-law, Barbara, and my ex-sister-in-law, Karen, are still in our lives. Don't ask me why. It's complicated. Let's just say they're about as pleasant as a root canal without anesthesia. When Allison mentioned prom at our monthly family dinner, you should have seen their faces. Barbara pursed her lips. Prom? Isn't that a bit frivolous? Karen chimed in, yeah, shouldn't you be focusing on college applications? I bit my tongue, but Allison, bless her heart, stood her ground. I can do both, Aunt Karen. I'm excited about prom. The tension was thicker than Barbara's infamous meatloaf. Later, while dress shopping, Allison found this gorgeous blue gown that made her eyes sparkle. "Mom, it's perfect," she gushed. I checked the price tag and winced. It was steep. But seeing Allison's face, I knew it was worth it. "You're going to be the belle of the ball, sweetie," I said, swiping my credit card. When we showed Barbara and Karen the dress, their reactions were interesting. Barbara sniffed. "It's a bit revealing, don't you think?" Karen added, "And that color. It's not really your best, Allison." I saw Allison's face fall and felt my blood boil. "I think she looks beautiful," I said firmly. Over the next few weeks, Allison was all about prom prep. She and her friends were constantly chatting about corsages, limos, and after parties. But every time Barbara or Karen were around, they'd make these little digs. "You're not wearing heels, are you? You'll tower over poor Tyler," Karen would say. Or Barbara would chime in with, "I hope you're not planning on staying out too late. It's not ladylike." I tried to shield Allison from their negativity, but I could see it was getting to her. The night before prom, Allison was a bundle of nerves and excitement. We were doing last-minute prep. Nails, hair, the works. "Mom, what if something goes wrong?" Allison fretted. I squeezed her hand. "Nothing's going to go wrong. Tomorrow's going to be perfect." As I hung up Allison's dress, making sure it was wrinkle-free for tomorrow, I had no idea of the storm that was about to hit. Sometimes the people you think you can trust are the ones you should watch out for the most. I had to run to the store for some last-minute items. Hairspray, bobby pins, you know the drill. Barbara and Karen offered to come over and help Allison with some final preparations. "That's so nice of you," I said, surprised by their sudden enthusiasm. As I left, I saw them heading upstairs with Allison. I should have trusted my gut feeling that something was off, but I pushed it aside, wanting to believe they were finally coming around. Little did I know, that decision would lead to a night I'd never forget, and not in a good way. I rushed back from the store, excited to surprise Allison with her favorite snacks for our prom prep night. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Barbara and Karen's cars were still there. Weird, I thought they'd be gone by now. I quietly entered the house, hearing hushed voices, and was that the sound of scissors. My heart started racing as I crept up the stairs. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I pushed open Allison's bedroom door. There in the middle of the room stood Barbara and Karen, scissors in hand, surrounded by blue fabric scraps. My daughter's beautiful prom dress lay in ruins on the bed. "What the hell are you doing?" I screamed, dropping the shopping bags. Barbara and Karen whirled around, faces pale. "Melissa, we were just," Karen stammered. "Just what?" "Destroying my daughter's dress. Have you lost your minds?" I was shaking with rage. Barbara stepped forward, chin raised defiantly. "We're doing what's best for Allison. That dress was inappropriate." "Inappropriate? It's a prom dress, not a stripper outfit." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Karen chimed in. "We were just trying to protect her reputation. You wouldn't understand." Suddenly, memories flooded back. The snide comments about my parenting, the accidental spills on Allison's favorite clothes, the times they'd conveniently forgotten to pick her up from school. It all made sense now. "You've always been jealous," I realized aloud. "You can't stand to see Allison happy." Barbara scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. We love Allison." "Love? This isn't love. This is control and manipulation." I shot back. Just then, I heard a gasp from the doorway. Allison stood there, eyes wide with horror as she took in the scene. My dress," she whispered, tears welling up. I rushed to her side, pulling her into a hug. "Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry." Allison broke down, sobbing. "Why would they do this? Grandma, Aunt Karen, how could you?" Barbara had the audacity to look offended. "We were trying to help, dear. That dress was much too revealing." "Get out," I growled, my voice low and dangerous. "Get out of my house right now." Karen tried to protest, but we were just. "Out," I roared, pointing to the door. As they scurried out, I turned my attention back to Allison, who was still crying. "What am I going to do, Mom? Prom's tomorrow, and my dress is ruined." I held her tight, my mind racing. How was I going to fix this? The dress shops would all be closed by now. "We'll figure something out, sweetie, I promise," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. As I comforted my heartbroken daughter, I knew one thing for certain. Barbara and Karen weren't going to get away with this. They'd finally gone too far, and it was time they faced the consequences of their actions. But first things first, I had a prom dress to magically produce in less than 24 hours. Talk about a mother's worst nightmare. As Allison finally drifted off to sleep, exhausted from crying, I sat at the kitchen table, my mind racing. This wasn't just about a ruined dress anymore. It was about years of manipulation and cruelty. I picked up my phone and dialed Jack, my ex. "We need to talk. It's about Allison." 30 minutes later, Jack was at my door, looking concerned. "What's going on, Melissa?" I filled him in on everything, and his face grew darker with each word. "I can't believe my own mother and sister would do this," he said, shaking his head. "Believe it. And it's not just this. Remember when Allison didn't get invited to Karen's kids' birthday parties? Or when Barbara accidentally spilled wine on her graduation dress?" Jack's eyes widened. "You think those were intentional?" "I know they were, and we're going to prove it." We spent the next few hours calling friends and family, piecing together a pattern of Barbara and Karen's behavior. The stories came pouring in. My friend Lisa chimed in. "Remember when Barbara told everyone Allison cheated on that math test?" "I knew that wasn't true." Jack's cousin Tom added. "Karen once told me Allison was spreading rumors about my daughter. I should have known better than to believe her." By morning, we had a list of incidents spanning years. It was time to call in the big guns. I reached out to my old college roommate Sarah, who was now a hotshot lawyer. "Sarah, I need your help." We met at a cafe where I laid out everything we'd uncovered. Sarah whistled low. "This is some serious stuff, Melissa. We're talking harassment, defamation, maybe even destruction of property with the dress incident." "What can we do?" I asked. "Well, legally we could pursue charges, but given its family, there might be a better way to handle this." That's when the idea hit me. The annual family reunion was coming up in 2 weeks. Everyone would be there. "Sarah, what if we expose them in front of the whole family?" A slow smile spread across Sarah's face. "Now that's an idea I can get behind. Let's plan this out." Over the next few days, while helping Allison prepare for prom, thank God for 24-hour tailors and my emergency credit card, we put our plan into motion. We gathered photos, screenshots of texts, and even security camera footage from my house showing Barbara and Karen with the destroyed dress. Jack reached out to extended family members, subtly ensuring everyone would attend the reunion. Lisa helped us create a slideshow of evidence, while Tom offered to be our tech guy at the reunion. "We need to make sure they can't wiggle out of this," I said during one of our planning sessions. Sarah nodded. "I've drafted a statement detailing their actions. We'll distribute it to everyone after the presentation." As the day approached, I felt a mix of nervousness and determination. Barbara and Karen had no idea what was coming. The night before the reunion, Allison asked, "Mom, are you sure about this? It seems intense." I hugged her tight. "Sweetie, sometimes you have to stand up to bullies, even when they're family, especially when they're family." "When they're family," Jack chimed in. "Your mom's right, kiddo. What they did to you is not okay, and it's time everyone knew the truth." Allison nodded slowly. "Okay, I trust you guys." As I laid out my outfit for the reunion, I took a deep breath. Tomorrow, everything would change. Barbara and Karen thought they could manipulate and hurt us without consequences. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. "Ready for tomorrow?" Jack asked as he was leaving. I nodded, a determined glint in my eye. "More than ready. It's time to end this once and for all. Let the showdown begin." The day of the family reunion arrived and my stomach was in knots. Allison, Jack, and I arrived early to set up our little presentation with Tom's help. As family members started trickling in, I could see Barbara and Karen, all smiles and hugs like nothing had happened. The sight made my blood boil. Once everyone had arrived, I stood up and cleared my throat. "Everyone, if I could have your attention, please. There's something important we need to discuss." Barbara looked confused. "Melissa, dear, what's this about?" I took a deep breath. "It's about the years of manipulation, lies, and cruelty that you and Karen have inflicted on Allison and our family." The room went dead silent. Tom hit the lights, and our slideshow began. "Last week, Barbara and Karen destroyed Allison's prom dress," I said as the security footage played. Gasps filled the room. We went through incident after incident, the birthday party snubs, the ruined clothes, the vicious rumors. With each revelation, I could see the shock and disgust growing on everyone's faces. Karen jumped up. This is ridiculous. We've never done anything to hurt Allison. But her protest fell flat as more family members started speaking up. Cousin Rachel chimed in. So that's why you told me Allison couldn't make it to my wedding. You said she was sick. Uncle Steve added. And the time you said Allison was talking bad about my son. That was a lie too. Barbara and Karen's faces were pale, their eyes darting around the room, looking for allies. They found none. Sarah stepped forward, her lawyer mode in full swing. What you've done constitutes harassment and defamation, not to mention the destruction of property. We have grounds for legal action. Barbara scoffed. You wouldn't dare. We're family. I locked eyes with her. Family doesn't do what you've done. You've left us no choice. The fallout was immediate. Other family members started sharing their own stories of Barbara and Karen's manipulations. It was like a dam had broken. In the end, we didn't need to press charges. The family decided on their own to cut Barbara and Karen out. No more invitations, no more contact. Allison's prom night was a triumph. In her new dress, even more beautiful than the first, she was radiant. Mom, she said as she was leaving, thank you for everything. I hugged her tight, fighting back tears. Always, sweetie. I'll always have your back. Later that night, as I reflected on everything that had happened, I realized something important. Standing up to toxic people, even family, isn't easy. But it's necessary, for ourselves and for the people we love. And that's the end of Melissa and Allison's story. Now, I've got a question for you. Was Melissa justified in exposing Barbara and Karen's behavior to the entire family, or should she have handled the situation more privately? Is public confrontation ever the right approach when dealing with toxic family members? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective could help others facing similar family conflicts. If this story resonated with you and you want to hear more like it, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more of these real-life dramas to light. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Hello, I'm Emily. Before I dive into my story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales that turn the everyday grind into something extraordinary. Now let's get into it. Life as a single mom and a full-time software engineer is anything but easy. My 4-year-old son Jack is full of energy and curiosity, usually spending his days at daycare while I juggle code at a busy tech firm downtown. But life threw me a curveball last month when my mom, the rock who helps me hold it all together, fell seriously ill. With no daycare, no backup babysitters, and deadlines piling up, I had no choice but to bring Jack to the office. On our first day navigating the corporate world together, I packed a bag with all of Jack's essentials: crayons, his favorite picture books, and an iPad loaded with silent mode games. I explained to Jack how important it was for him to stay quiet, turning it into a game. He nodded, wide-eyed, taking on the mission with the seriousness of a tiny spy. We arrived early, the office still quiet, the lights dimmed in that pre-coffee hush. My cubicle became our little fortress. I set up a small area on the floor with his toys and snacks, hoping he'd stay entertained without a peep. As my coworkers trickled in, their reactions were a mix of surprise and amusement. I shot them nervous smiles, finger to my lips, pleading for understanding without words. Most just nodded and went about their day, but not my boss, Mr. Johnson. When Mr. Johnson spotted Jack, his eyebrows shot up. Bringing the whole family today, Emily? His tone held a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. Yeah, just for today, Mr. Johnson. My mom's sick, and I had no one to watch Jack. He'll be quiet, I promise, I said, trying to sound confident. Mr. Johnson pursed his lips, glancing down at Jack, who was busy coloring. Well, make sure he is. We've got a full day, and I need everyone at 100%. Understood. We won't be a disturbance, I assured him, though the knot in my stomach told me otherwise. The morning passed in a blur of meetings via headphones and quiet games. Jack was a champ, whispering questions and munching on snacks. But by midday, restlessness set in. During a team video call, Jack began to fidget, the quiet game no longer as thrilling. I was presenting a new software patch, screen shared, when I heard a slight spilling sound. Turning, I saw Jack's water bottle tipped over, a puddle inching towards Mr. Johnson's office door, just a few feet away. Oops, mommy water, Jack whispered, his horror mirroring mine. I hastily muted myself and darted up with tissues in hand, but not before Mr. Johnson appeared in his doorway, a dark shadow looming as he watched the spill creeping towards his leather shoes. "Really, Emily? This is a workplace, not a playground," he snapped. I scrambled on the floor, dabbing at the water. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Johnson. We're cleaning it up right now. It won't happen again." But what happened next shocked me. Mr. Johnson, his patience clearly worn thin, reached out and slapped Jack's cheek. I froze for a millisecond, shock rooting me to the spot. Then maternal instinct kicked in. I stood swiftly, wet paper towels dropping from my hands, and rushed to Jack, sweeping him up into my arms. He buried his face in my shoulder, sobbing, his small body trembling. I turned to face Mr. Johnson, who looked back at me with a mix of defiance and irritation. A cold fury settled over me. "You get my son. You actually hit him," I said, my voice low, struggling to keep it steady. "He needs to learn not to mess with other people's things," Mr. Johnson replied, unapologetic. "That gives you no right to touch him. Ever," I countered, holding Jack close. Around us, the office had gone quiet, my colleagues peeking over their cubicles, drawn by the commotion. "I'm calling HR about this right now," I declared, my decision firm. Ignoring Mr. Johnson's scoff, I headed straight to the HR office, Jack still in my arms, his cries now soft whimpers. The HR manager, Ms. Watkins, looked up in surprise as I entered her office, Jack's face still buried against me. "Emily, what happened?" she asked, concern creasing her brow as she noticed Jack's distress. I set Jack down gently and explained. "Mr. Johnson hit Jack. He spilled some water by accident and Mr. Johnson slapped him." The words tasted bitter, almost unbelievable as they left my mouth. Ms. Watkins' eyes widened. "Oh no, that's not acceptable at all. Let me document this and we'll start an immediate investigation. Can you write down everything that happened? And we'll need to take photos of Jack's cheek." The rest of the day was a blur of written statements, whispered apologies from sympathetic coworkers, and the cold, hard process of filing a formal complaint. Jack clung to me, quieter than I'd ever seen him, his small world shattered by the harshness of an adult's anger. Once we were back at my cubicle, I pulled out my phone and gently turned Jack's face toward the light. "Sweetie, I just need to take a picture, okay? It's important," I murmured, snapping a few photos of the red mark on his cheek. These would be crucial for the report to HR. Next, I scanned the office floor, my eyes meeting those of a few colleagues who had witnessed the incident scene. I approached each colleague one by one, starting with Ella, who had been closest to the scene. "Ella, could you please help me document what happened for HR?" I asked. She nodded immediately, her face a mix of concern and anger. "Of course, Emily. It was completely out of line," Ella responded, her voice low but firm. She quickly wrote down her account, detailing how Mr. Johnson had struck Jack without any provocation other than the spilled water. I gathered similar testimonies from two other colleagues, Tom and Mira, who also expressed their disbelief and willingness to support my complaint. With the statements and photos secured, I felt a grim satisfaction. There was enough evidence to make a solid case against Mr. Johnson. Holding Jack's hand, we returned to Ms. Watkins' office in HR. "I have statements from witnesses and photos of the injury," I said as I handed over the evidence. Ms. Watkins took them, her expression growing increasingly serious. "This is very serious, Emily. We'll need to conduct a formal investigation. It's clear this is not just a minor incident," she stated, her voice resolute. She assured me that they would handle the situation with the seriousness it warranted. "Thank you, Ms. Watkins. I just want to make sure this doesn't happen to any other child, or anyone for that matter," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "We absolutely agree. This is not the kind of behavior we condone or allow in our workplace," she replied, her tone reassuring. The next steps involved formal interviews with the witnesses and a detailed report being filed against Mr. Johnson. The company moved quickly, likely due to the nature of the offense and the clear evidence presented. Mr. Johnson was called into a separate meeting with upper management, and while I wasn't privy to the details, the swift scheduling suggested they were taking it seriously. That evening, as Jack and I headed home, I felt a mix of exhaustion and cautious relief. The immediate response from HR gave me hope that justice would be served. Still, the incident had left a mark far deeper than the one on Jack's cheek, a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities and fierce protective instincts that come with motherhood. Jack held my hand tightly as we walked to the car, his small voice breaking the silence. "Mommy, are you mad at me for the water?" he asked, his words tentative. I squeezed his hand gently, bending down to meet his gaze. "Oh honey, no, I'm not mad at you at all. You didn't do anything wrong," I reassured him, my heart aching at the thought that he might blame himself. As the days following the incident blurred together, the tension at the office was palpable. HR's initial hesitation, due to Mr. Johnson's senior position, was a bitter pill to swallow. My discussions with Ms. Watkins were marked by a careful, almost guarded tone, reflecting the complexities of challenging someone who had shaped company policies for years. Despite the gravity of what had happened, there were murmurs that it might be swept under the rug, that Mr. Johnson's influence would overshadow the clear evidence of his misconduct. My anxiety grew, not just for Jack's well-being but for what failing to address this incident might say about our workplace culture. However, the tide began to turn as more colleagues came forward, not just as witnesses but as supporters, voicing their discontent over Mr. Johnson's behavior, which, as it turned out, had been oppressive in more ways than one. The whispers of his temper and harshness were no longer just whispers, they were spoken aloud, contributing to a collective call for action. Mira, who had been with the company for several years, shared her own experiences during a meeting with HR. "It's not just about this incident. There's a pattern of intimidation here that we've all been too afraid to talk about," she said firmly, her declaration opening the door for others to share similar stories. Faced with this wave of testimonials and the undeniable evidence of the injury to Jack, HR was compelled to launch a full investigation. They brought in an external firm to ensure impartiality, interviewing everyone involved and examining the documentation I had provided. The investigation was thorough and, to my relief, concluded swiftly. The findings were undeniable. Mr. Johnson had acted in a manner unbecoming of his position, and striking a child was the final, irrevocable breach of conduct. When the decision was finally announced, it was a somber victory. Mr. Johnson was terminated for child abuse, a move that sent shockwaves through the company. The news was met with mixed reactions, relief from those who had suffered under his leadership, and shock from others who had only seen his polished exterior. Following the resolution, the company's executive team held a meeting with all employees. They expressed regret over the incident and outlined steps to prevent such occurrences in the future, including more stringent checks on managerial conduct and enhanced support systems for working parents. They offered me time off to recover from the ordeal and assistance in finding childcare, recognizing the dual strain of managing a career and motherhood, especially under such extraordinary circumstances. As I sat with Jack at a park later that day, watching him play, his laughter a balm to the recent turmoil, I reflected on the ordeal. The company had stepped up in the end, but the journey highlighted the need for constant vigilance and advocacy, not just for one's child, but for one's rights as an employee. "Mommy, look how high I can swing," Jack called out, his cheeks flushed with joy. I smiled, pushing him gently higher and higher. "You're touching the sky, Jack." As he swung, carefree and soaring, I felt a resolve firm within me, not just to find a more supportive work environment, but to ensure that such a situation would never be repeated, at least not on my watch. Each day, as I watched Jack rediscover his usual cheerful demeanor and witnessed my mother regain her strength, the priorities I had often sidelined in the rush of daily life came sharply into focus. The need for a supportive, understanding work environment where family emergencies wouldn't be met with hostility but with compassion became my guiding criterion for future employment. Armed with new resolve, I began the search for a job that would respect and align with my values. It wasn't just about finding a place that tolerated having children around in emergencies. It was about finding a place that embraced the reality of working parents, acknowledging that life and work are not separate entities, but intertwined threads of the same fabric. During my search, I came across a tech startup known for its innovative approach, not only to technology but also to workplace culture. Their policies actively supported work-life balance, offering flexible working hours, remote work options, and an on-site childcare facility. It seemed almost too good to be true. I reached out with my application and soon found myself in interviews that felt more like conversations, discussing projects and policies with people who genuinely seemed to care about their employees' well-being. The contrast with my previous job was stark, and every interaction left me more hopeful. When the job offer came, it was not just an offer to join their team, but an invitation to join a community committed to supporting each other. Accepting it felt like the right step, not just for my career, but for my family. Starting at the new company was a breath of fresh air. My first day coincided with a company-wide picnic, an event that welcomed families and celebrated the community. Watching Jack play with other children on the company grounds, I knew I had made the right decision. "Mommy, can we come here every day?" Jack asked, his eyes wide with excitement as he took a break from a spirited game of tag. Laughing, I nodded, ruffling his hair. "Yes, sweetie, we can." As I looked around at my new colleagues, many of whom were also there with their families, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. The transition from a toxic work environment to one that prioritized employee well-being had been fraught with challenges, but it was worth every effort. The experience had taught me the importance of standing up for what is right, not only for myself but for Jack, and for those who might one day find themselves in similar situations. As Jack ran back to his new friends, his laughter ringing through the air, I was filled with optimism for the future. Here, at this company, our prospects seemed as bright as the clear sky above us. And that wraps up our story. What do you think about workplaces and their support for working parents? Should companies be required to provide more family-friendly policies, or is it solely a personal responsibility to manage work-life balance? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinions really help enrich our discussions. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to you. Thanks for watching, and we can't wait to hear what you think. The air was filled with music and laughter, the perfect backdrop to what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My name is Linda, and I stood there in my white gown, feeling like a princess. But that feeling was shattered in an instant. "Linda, dear, could you come here for a moment?" My mother-in-law's voice, sharp and insistent, cut through the merriment. I excused myself from my friends and walked over to her, noticing the stiffness in her posture and the tightness of her smile. "What is it, Mrs. Dalton?" I asked, trying to keep my tone pleasant. "It's about the way you look at me, Linda. I know a look of contempt when I see one. I'm your husband's mother, and I deserve respect, not disdain." Her words, laced with accusation, took me by surprise. "Mrs. Dalton, I assure you, you're mistaken. I have nothing but respect for you," I replied, feeling a wave of confusion. "Respect? Ha! I've seen the way you roll your eyes, the little sighs when I speak. You think I'm blind? You've turned my own son against me." Her voice rose, drawing the attention of nearby guests. "Mom, what's going on here?" My husband, Mark, joined us, his brow furrowed with concern. "Your wife, she's been disrespectful to me, always looking down on me. And today, on your wedding day, she's been the worst." Mrs. Dalton's voice broke, tears welling in her eyes. "Linda, is this true?" Mark looked at me, his expression a mix of disbelief and rising anger. "No, it's not true. I've done nothing of the sort," I said firmly, feeling a growing sense of injustice. "She's lying." "Mark, I'm your mother. Would I lie to you?" Mrs. Dalton sobbed, clutching his arm. In a moment that felt surreal, Mark's hand came up and struck my cheek in a stinging slap. The sound echoed in the sudden silence, and I stood there, hand to my reddening cheek, as the room full of guests stared in shock. "How could you?" I whispered, not to Mark or Mrs. Dalton, but to the universe that had allowed this to happen. "Linda, I didn't mean," Mark stammered, his anger giving way to confusion and regret. "No, you show me exactly who you are," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. Turning away from them, I addressed the crowd. "I'm sorry you had to witness this. Please continue to enjoy the celebration. I need a moment alone." As I walked away, the whispers began, but I held my head high. This was not the end, but the beginning of something else. A plan started to form in my mind, a plan for justice. This humiliation would not go unanswered. In the privacy of the bridal suite, I allowed myself a moment of vulnerability, letting the tears fall. But they weren't just tears of pain. They were tears of determination. I would not be a victim. I would be a victor. After the wedding incident, I knew I had to take action. The first step was to gather undeniable evidence. I reached out to a private investigator, Mr. Grayson, known for his discretion and effectiveness. Mr. Grayson, I need your help. My husband Mark and his mother have been, let's say, less than kind. Understood, Linda. What exactly are we looking for? I need evidence of their behavior, anything that shows a pattern of emotional, financial, or legal abuse. Consider it done. I'll start with surveillance and background checks. I'll dig into their pasts, finances, everything. Armed with my mission, I began recording my conversations with Mark and his mother, every phone call, every encounter. I needed all the evidence I could get. In the midst of this, I found solace in my friend Sarah. Sarah, I don't know how I'd get through this without you. You don't have to, Linda. I'm here for you always. So what's the plan? I'm collecting evidence. Mr. Grayson is helping too. I want to expose them for who they truly are. Be careful, Linda. They won't see this coming and they'll be furious. I know, but I couldn't let them get away with it. As weeks passed, the evidence started piling up. Calls where Mark's tone was aggressive and demeaning, financial records revealing his mother's tight grip on his assets, and questionable transactions hinting at fraud. One evening, Sarah and I sat down to review the findings. Look at this, Sarah. These bank statements. They're moving large sums of money. But to where? And these emails. They're planning something, but what? We need to connect the dots. This is more than just emotional abuse. It's a web of lies and manipulation. Linda, we're onto something big here, Sarah said, her eyes wide with realization. The more I delved into the evidence, the clearer the picture became. Mark and his mother weren't just toxic, they were involved in deeply unethical, possibly illegal activities. Sarah, I think they're embezzling funds from Mark's company. These documents, they're incriminating. Linda, this is serious. You need to be cautious. They won't take kindly to being exposed. I know, but I can't back down, not now. The evidence was overwhelming, not just of their cruelty, but of their criminality. It was time to make a plan to bring them to justice and reclaim my life. Sarah, I'm going to expose them publicly. Linda, that's risky, but if anyone can do it, it's you. With Sarah by my side and the evidence in hand, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for justice. The next step was clear. I had to bring their actions into the light. It was time for the world to see Mark and his mother for who they truly were. I organized an event under the guise of a big announcement, inviting friends, family, and subtly, a few media contacts. The venue was lavish, the atmosphere buzzing with anticipation. Thank you all for coming. I know you're curious about the big news. I began, my voice steady, my demeanor calm. Mark and his mother, Mrs. Dalton, stood beside me, beaming, unaware of the storm about to break. Linda, darling, we're so proud of you. Whatever the announcement, we support you, Mark said, his words dripping with insincerity. I've gathered you all here to share some important truths about my marriage and the Dalton family. I paused, gauging the crowd's reaction. Truths? Linda, what are you talking about? Mrs. Dalton's voice quivered with a mix of confusion and fear. I'm talking about the abuse, the lies, and the illegal activities that have been going on behind the scenes. The room fell silent, the air thick with tension. Linda, have you lost your mind? Mark's face turned a shade of red, his anger barely contained. Quite the contrary, Mark. I've never been more sane or more sure of what I need to do. Exhibit A, I gestured to the screen behind me, where a video started playing, a recording of one of their heated, abusive conversations. The crowd gasped, murmurs growing louder. Mrs. Dalton's face paled, her hands trembling. This is just the beginning. These documents show financial irregularities, embezzlement, and fraud. I held up a folder filled with incriminating evidence. You can't do this, Linda. You're ruining everything. Mark's voice was a mix of plea and threat. I'm not ruining anything. I'm exposing the truth, a truth that everyone needs to see. The media personnel started clicking their cameras, capturing every moment of the unfolding drama. Linda, please, let's discuss this privately. Mrs. Dalton's voice was barely a whisper, her facade of control shattered. No, Mrs. Dalton, no more private discussions. The time for hiding is over. As I continued to reveal more evidence, the reactions varied from shock to disbelief. Some guests shook their heads, while others whispered among themselves. Mark and Mrs. Dalton stood frozen, their masks of respectability falling away. This is my story, a story of surviving abuse and standing up against injustice. I refuse to be a victim any longer. The event concluded with a flurry of activity. The media swarmed around, asking questions, while many guests offered words of support and admiration for my bravery. As I walked away from the podium, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had done it. I had exposed them publicly, maintaining my composure and control. It was a moment of triumph, a moment where I reclaimed my power and my voice. The courtroom was stark and imposing, a fitting arena for the final act of my journey. As I sat there, a mix of nervousness and determination, my lawyer beside me, I couldn't help but notice how unsettled Mark and Mrs. Dalton looked across the room. Your Honor, we are here to present the case against Mark and Mrs. Dalton, not just for a divorce, but for years of emotional and financial abuse, my lawyer began, his voice resonating with confidence. Linda, you can't win this. You're going too far. Mark's desperate whisper reached me from across the room. This isn't about winning, Mark. It's about justice. It's about showing the world who you really are. I replied calmly but firmly. The trial proceeded with my lawyer presenting the evidence meticulously, the recordings, the financial documents, everything that painted a true picture of the life I had endured. Your Honor, as you can see, the evidence is overwhelming. We seek not only a divorce but also appropriate legal action for the wrongs committed by the defendants. Your Honor, this is all a misunderstanding. Linda is exaggerating. Mrs. Dalton's plea sounded hollow, even to her own ears. Exaggerating? The evidence speaks for itself. You can't hide from the truth anymore. I said, my words directed at both Mark and Mrs. Dalton, a final testament to my stand against them. The judge, after reviewing the evidence and hearing the testimonies, made her ruling. In light of the overwhelming evidence, I grant the divorce and order legal actions against Mark and Mrs. Dalton for their conduct. As the gavel struck, a sense of vindication washed over me. I had done it. I had stood up to them and emerged victorious. With the legal battles behind me, I began the next chapter of my life, a chapter of healing and rebuilding. I found a small, peaceful place in the countryside, a stark contrast to the chaos of my past life. Sitting on the porch of my new home, a warm cup of tea in hand, I looked out at the tranquil view before me. The trees swayed gently in the breeze. Birds chirped in the distance, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. This was it, a new beginning, a life free from lies, manipulation, and pain. My journey hadn't been easy, but it was worth it. I had not only survived, I had triumphed. I had found my strength, reclaimed my voice, and now I was finally free. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the horizon, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be. The future was uncertain, but it was mine to shape, a future filled with hope, healing, and happiness. This was my story of triumph, a story of a woman who refused to be silenced, who stood tall against all odds. This was my closure, my victory. The story of Linda's journey has reached its conclusion. Do you believe Linda's decision to publicly expose and legally confront her husband and his mother was the best course of action? Could there have been a different way to handle such a situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story and want to see more like it, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more compelling narratives. Your support helps us bring more stories to life.